Next, I would like to invite Dr. Rishikesh Patankar, Chief Executive Officer, CSC Academy.
I am very glad to deliver this speech on such an important and momentous occasion in my life. It is a great honor for me to receive this award. I am deeply honored for recognition of our as a part of the larger Digital India program, uh, which started in 2014, and this is the 6th year running. The organization with which I am working have been touching lives of millions of people in the rural areas across the hinterlands of India. The areas include education, skill development, healthcare, livelihoods, government to citizen services. I would like to thank GCPIT team, Santosh ji, Aparna ma'am, and all people who have been part of the staff. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you and congratulations again, Dr. Rishikesh. Next, I would like.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whichever part of the world you are joining us from, Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, or GCPIT, is proud to welcome you to the special interview series in connection with the Global Emerging Leaders Awards 2022. I'm Aparna Kumar, the Global Co-Chairperson of GCPIT and your host for the show. Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade is an organization based in India, South Africa, US, UK, and UAE with board and council member representation across the world. We at GCPIT believe in fostering leadership across different levels. Recently, we have been reflecting on the significance of perspective in our role as leaders. When we advance from being an individual contributor to a leader, our perspective starts changing. We gain access to new information, have conversations with new people, and think about things in ways which we didn't have to before. These changes or learnings have immense power, and we believe that this interview series will help us and many aspiring future leaders to gain new perspectives, especially global perspectives from these emerging leaders. Today, we have with us such a leader to tell us about his perspectives on leadership while leading his venture. We have with us Dr. Rishikesh Patankar, who is the Chief Executive Officer, CSC Academy, and Chief Operating Officer, Education, CSC SPV. He's a digital transformation specialist with 21 years of experience, doctorate and net qualified, and 3 master's degrees in computer science, IT, ex-NAVA, ex-Digital India Corporation, highly accomplished in strategic planning, e-governance, ICT for development. Congratulations, Dr. Rishikesh, for being nominated for the Emerging Leaders Awards. We are proud to have you with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And I look forward to the partnership and collaboration.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And before we begin talking about leadership, I would like to hear from you. How did all this begin, your journey? What is your background and what are you currently doing?
So from last 8 years, I'm into e-governance. And before that, around 7-8 years, I was working under Ministry of Electronics and IT's another arm in research and development. So it was called Media Lab Asia earlier, and now it is Digital India Corporation. So before that, I was in Indian Navy for a few months, and after that, I did my master's in computer science, and I also worked 1 year in China in capacity building. So, and right now I'm working with CSC, as you mentioned, from last 8 years, and largely implementing various government and other projects.
Great to know that about your experience. And I felt proud when I heard you are in Navy. And if you had to pick 4 or 5 words or short phrases to describe how a successful leader in a global environment operates or behaves, what would they be?
Most important is a versatile character or personality is important. You need to have your EQ right, emotional quotient, then empathy. And since you are not alone, you are working with a team, you need to be a team player or motivator, as well as a strategist, maybe for long-term goals. But for near goals, you need to have that tactical approach and the ground reality, that is the operational part. So all these 3 aspects are very important for a leader in a global environment.
And how would you describe the differences in the organization culture between a global environment and a more local or regional environment?
Largely, it basically depends upon the behavior, attitude, and performance, which is directly influenced by the local culture or the global culture. And the cultural diversity can be analyzed in various ways. But for instance, we compare cultural diversity within one country or one company. But we need to have a kind of approach towards work that we are able to successfully implement any project or any problem, try to find out a solution in the best possible way, which can empower large number of beneficiaries across the world.
And how is your company's purpose evolving over the years?
Our company was established in 2009, and CSC Governance Services India Limited was established in 2009. And initial 3-4 years, we were also struggling with sustainability and other issues because we work on the rural entrepreneurship model in the country. And so only the government services will not suffice. If you want to be sustainable, if the center wants to be sustainable at the local level, we need to have some services through which we can basically empower the rural entrepreneur. And that is how the journey started. And we have been working and partnering with various organizations, service providers, so that the income of the local entrepreneur gets improved and they are able to sustain themselves. And 2017, when we started the CSC Academy, largely it was for capacity building of rural entrepreneurs and taking care of the e-learning space and other things, including implementing various CSR projects. So this is how the organization is evolving, and we have been working. Largely it is because of the networking with various individuals, various organizations and partnerships, which organization has to go through in order to grow further and improve its sustainability aspect and also the inclusion aspect.
Great to know that. And how should companies approach digitization? What's your view on that?
Digitization is very important because if we see in our country, largely it was paperwork from last many years. And after the Digital India program was launched in 2014, we have seen a large digital transformation which is happening. So even filling up of forms and many other things are now getting digital. A person sitting at home can actually go for digitization and maybe improve their content which is in pen and paper form into digitization. I think most of the digitization work involves a lot of data which we need to convert. We need to scan it and put it, and then maybe a search needs to be put into that. So companies can basically a lot of legacy documents which are there that needs to be scanned and then uploaded for digitization. So there's a way in order to do that. We had in fact prepared a project called Digitize India, where it was a crowdsourcing model where people can, where there were snippets and people across the country can, people in India can actually put those convert those snippets into digitized format, and they used to get some sort of incentive for the digitization work. And that is how the digitization was carried out. Largely it is document preparation, processing, then transcription and data capture. So these are the 4 important aspects of it.
I think that's an amazing work you have been doing. And what was the most challenging difference in leadership or culture that you had to understand or overcome in a globalized economy?
In a globalized environment, most important challenge is largely inspiring others actually, and developing your employees. Maybe not all your employees are at the same level which you expect. And there may be, if there is a team of 10, maybe 2 or 3 are performing very well, but many of them are moderate or at the lower level. We need to improve that. So if all of them are working very well, then it would be very good. Also, managing, mobilizing, leading with change actually. When there is change management, that also becomes a challenge sometimes. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with those changes. So I think that part becomes a challenge, but we need to have in a global perspective, global expansion difficulties and going into the market, we need to take care of the challenges.
I totally agree with you in that. And what advice would you give to someone who has taken a senior leadership role to be more impactful in the role they have taken up?
So as a senior leader, you have to be a role model yourself. If and you need to you have your maybe all your doubts cleared. I think that is important, and you have to be a motivator. You need to have empathy, as I mentioned earlier, and you have to be a great listener as well, because you need to listen to your team. Maybe you cannot come out with new ideas unless and until you collaborate and you work with your team, and maybe some of them might have very brilliant ideas which can work. So I think that becomes very important.
So according to you, are there any training or resources such as coaching to help you be better, or is it just a lot of practice?
Practice is one important aspect, because practice actually practice means you're implementing projects, so you gain knowledge and you learn and unlearn and relearn. So that is important, but coaching is also important. If you listen to a motivating speaker, if you maybe undergo a transformation course, maybe from leading institutes in India and abroad, you will have a greater aspect of the global environment. Maybe the US economy or the European economy, how they work. I think those examples can be very beneficial for a leader, and maybe that can give you an innovative start.
Now, are these resources available, or how can we make these resources available to the broader leadership team within the ecosystem itself? As you said, we have to train our employees, right?
Yes,
when we go global.
I think these resources, there are a lot of resources available. Open education resources are already available, and those from MIT, Stanford, all those are available, including IIT and IIM also in the country. Also, there are a lot of learned people across the country who we can actually have as a resource person, who have brilliant ideas. You can basically understand them, but maybe a tailor-made model or a tailor-made coaching program can be created for a particular job perspective, and then maybe a training can be done. So I think that becomes very important.
And we also saw what the pandemic did to businesses globally. What have you learned from leading in this crisis?
I think pandemic has been quite demotivating for all of us, and some of the important aspects which pandemic has taught us is taking care of the health part. I think that is the most important, and even if you work, you can work offline, online, maybe that is important, but most important aspect is taking care of the health. I think that has become a key factor over here, and maybe working together as a team and the support environment. So these taking care of health, the support environment within the organization and outside, and a lot of financial inclusion, because we have seen a boon in financial inclusion during the pandemic, and changing trends in education and skill development. I think those have been key outcomes of this pandemic, and how we can actually sustain such a disaster.
And how do you promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace as a leader?
I think diversity inclusion is very important, because as I mentioned earlier also, for inclusion you need to have you need to take care of all the people, including the people who are specially abled, and you need to take care of them, and you need to have them at the same level, including taking care of the diversity part. I think these are the key holders in an organization, and diversity and inclusion will actually bring you a different aspect into the thinking of an organization, of a working of an organization. That becomes, I think, most important.
And before we close, what would you like to advise the entrepreneurs who are dreaming to be successful in the global level?
I think at the global level, you need to have your doubts cleared. You need to be an inspirational and a motivational leader for your team. You need to be a team leader. You need to be a very good listener in order to move ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rishikesh, for joining us today and enlightening us with your thoughts and experiences. As you said, as we grow as a global leader, we need to be versatile and we need to set our EQ right. And we should have empathy and we should be team players, motivators, and inspiring others and developing it. We have to develop our employees to grow to the same level as our thought process, right? And developing a global culture is important, and we have to be role models ourselves. And let us take care of our health, which the pandemic has taught us. And